Hey there, my name's Cassidy Patterson, and I am in the final stages of completing my practicum project for the Industrial Organizational Psychology program here at EKU. So the purpose of this presentation is to do an overview of the practicum project that I chose, which was to assess the employee engagement at Randstad USA. Go a little bit more into detail about what the process of the project looked like, and to also go more into detail about what I learned, obstacles that I faced, learning points, and then also the deliverables that I gave to my client, and the final results that I saw once this was completed. So first, we will talk about the overview of my project. So the basic overview of my project was to assess employee engagement at Randstad Staffing, more specifically for the district that I'm in, which is District 12. And this encompasses two different branches, which actually includes 13 individuals, all at different levels of employment, coming from associate recruiters all the way up to assistant and market managers as well. This is my current employer, so I went into this with some background knowledge, which helped but was also a disadvantage, and I'll go a little bit more into detail about that a little bit later. But there's been a lot of turnover in the past within this district. And so the aim of this project really was to find, are the current employees engaged in their work? And if they are not, what is the root cause of this? Is there something specific that we can hone in on, that we can fix to heighten and increase that engagement, to keep these employees connected with each other and connected with the organization, to keep them there longer so that they will be successful in their positions and that Randstad will be successful in their endeavors as well. So of course, to get to the answers that we are looking for, we have to go through somewhat of a process to get there. So to start, I focus mainly on a literature review, going more into detail about recruitment processes, socialization, motivation within the workplace, and all of those things together come together to build up what is engagement, or that connectedness with the organization that you're a part of, which is what we were focusing on for this project. I also did some more literature reviews and did some investigation on Randstad in general, what their turnover looks like, what our turnover looked like internally within our district, and staffing industry overall as well. I also continued the process of finding more information and with the data collection, and a lot of the data that I used for the project came from interviews with the current staff. My main client, which was market manager Jessica Green, we sat down for about 2 hours at one point, and we just had a very long conversation about, you've been here 6 years, you've seen people come, you've seen people go. What have you seen that has kept people here, and what have you seen that has, been the reason that people walk away and find another position? I also interviewed two other ladies, both at different levels of the company, different job titles, and I got their opinions and their thoughts and their feelings about their current job duties. What do they like? What do they dislike? What do they believe is the underlying issue? So I was able to hone in on which factors of engagement that I believe were the most prevalent within this particular district. So off of that information, I created a employee engagement survey that I was going to distribute out to the employees within our area. This survey consisted of 25 questions, and each of these questions was specifically meant for a specific factor. And so based on the interviews and the literature review and the data collection, I found 5 factors of engagement that were most important, or that came up the most within the data collection. And that is workload, work-life balance, recognition, team dynamics, and management or supervisor support. So out of those 5 factors, I came up with questions that had to do with each of those factors. So I was able to assess engagement on different levels. So once the survey was created, which it ended up being a 1 through 5 Likert scale, 1 being I don't agree at all, to 5 being I totally agree. Once that was created, I had my manager, Jessica Green, the client, send out the completed survey to the rest of the team, and they were asked to complete the survey, and they had 2 to 3 days at the end of the week to be able to complete this. I was very lucky. I was worried about the timeline with that, but I had a lot of support from my team members, and I think a lot of that was because I am their coworker, and they wanted to support me within the process. So I got those back in about 3 days. And so once I received the completed surveys back, I then started my data analysis. And I used the software program Jamovi to conduct my data analysis. And basically what I was wanting to look at was the mean scores for each factor. So I loaded each question into the factor that it was related to. Of course, I did a descriptive analysis and found the means of each factor. And I actually found that workload was the lowest scoring factor out of the 5. And not surprisingly, I additionally did a correlation matrix to see which of the factors correlated the most with overall engagement, and that was also the factor of workload. So we found very easily that the workload was one of the main reasons that people were less engaged, and so I focused my results and my recommendation section over the workload factor. So at that point, once I had my results, I collected those and created my recommendations based on how we could help the employees with their workload, and I conducted a client presentation in the form of a PowerPoint. And I gave about a 30-minute presentation to the team and just went over the same process with them, talked about the steps that I took to be able to get to the recommendations and the results that I had. And that actually just happened this afternoon. So that is the basic outline of the process that I went through for this project. Jessica Green and the rest of the team at Randstad were also given deliverables at the end of this project. And just a brief overview of those deliverables, which I've also touched on in my final report, where they have access to, of course, the midterm and the final reports. Those were turned in as they were required to also be turned into faculty. I created a PowerPoint presentation for the presentation that I gave earlier this afternoon. So they are able to have that for future reference or also future use if they ever want to use that to show their senior management in the future. I also created, of course, the 25 question survey. They have that as well. They have the blank survey. So if they were to want to distribute the survey in the future to new employees, that is an option for them. I also gave them access to the completed surveys, and then they also had access to the Jamovi data set, so they were able to see the actual data analysis that I conducted, and if they needed me to go back and to run other analysis, that we would be able to look at that together and go through that process together as well. So although this process was rather smooth from beginning to end, of course, this is the first time that most of us in this program are doing any sort of project on our own that's at this caliber. So there were obstacles that I faced throughout the process. And at first, the largest one was client communication. And with that being said, there was a couple different reasons for this. Number one, because this is a project that was presented to them that was for school and not necessarily something that they requested, they weren't as engaged as I would have liked to have been from the beginning. Also, my manager, today was actually her last day. She got promoted. So the past few weeks, she's been traveling a lot. She's not been in the office. So just being able to have that one-on-one time, being able to have sit-down meetings to discuss the progress, to be able to, discuss some issues I'm having, or if I had follow-up questions on some of the interviews or needed some more information about Randstad KPIs or Randstad history. It was hard at first to get that from her just because of her lack of presence in the office. However, she was very understanding that this was important. She wanted this to be beneficial for me and for the branch as well, so they're able to use this information in the future. So we basically just had a very serious sit-down conversation of what I needed from them and she needed from me, and so we ended up just talking a lot over the phone whenever she was out of the office, so we were able to tackle that obstacle together. Also, participant engagement at first was somewhat of an obstacle. Toward the end, whenever I actually was distributing the surveys, at that point of the process, I think that my coworkers finally realized how important this project was to me. And so at that point, they were completely vested into the process. And so that part of the project went very quickly. However, at the beginning, when I was conducting my interviews and doing my literature review and doing the data collection segment, I was having a hard time having them sit down and give me the time and the effort and the energy that I needed to be able to get the information that I needed for this project to be successful. But again, what I had to do is just explain why this is important, what's in it for them, and create that buy-in for them. I'm doing this project to show you how we can improve our workspace so that you will be happier in your current position. And once we had that conversation, things started looking up as well. And I think finally the last thing is just my lack of previous experience doing something like this on my own. Throughout this project, we've done a lot of, practice, case studies and, analysis, data analysis, and that has been very beneficial and very helpful, and I've learned a lot. But just having to do the whole process from beginning to end on my own and being the one that is fully in charge of making the decisions, that was in itself an obstacle, and I think that was something that I just had to continue to work. And I think what really helped is I'm very prideful, but I had to somewhat swallow my pride. I did have to reach out to some faculty members, ask for help, ask for guidance, which at the end of the day just made my project stronger and made the results stronger, which is what both I and the client want at the end of the day. Finally, I just want to go over some learning points and final thoughts that I have about the project overall. First, just the entry contracting phase. I've already kind of touched on this, but that was not one of the stronger moments I had within this project. And I think that if I would have gone into this phase with more communication and more clarity with my client, it would have saved a lot of the obstacles throughout the process for me. However, hindsight's 2020, and this is just a learning opportunity for me to be able to go forward and implement a more clear understanding, more clear communication with other clients in the future. Client engagement, we've already touched on this somewhat as well, and that also comes into the entry and contracting phase. Making sure that they have that buy-in, what's in it for them, why am I doing this, what am I doing that is going to be beneficial for them, and if I would have done that from the beginning, having that buy-in would have helped get the process going a little bit quicker and a little bit smoother. Really the last two, time management and being flexible, I think go hand in hand together. Time management, again, having my client be out of the office and having some hiccups within work throughout the way, and also having to work full time at this same place while having to also integrate this project into my workday was difficult at times. So making sure that I'm being flexible with myself, but also flexible with other people's schedules, and that's something that we're going to all have to learn how to do when we have clientele in the future as well. So overall, I thought this process and this project went very, very well, especially for it being the first time most of us are doing something of this sort and to this caliber. And I'm just really thankful for this opportunity to be part of this program. And I just want to thank everybody for all the help and guidance and support throughout the entire process of not only this project, but the entire program in general. So thank you.